Well, good morning. Good morning, everyone. I am a stickler about starting my seminars on time. So we are starting on time and hopefully others will continue to join us. I want to say welcome to each of you for, and thank you also for joining me for our workshop on the Art of Affirmations. I am so excited to spend this time with you all today, and I do hope without a doubt you are excited about spending time with me as well. We have a lot of good information that we're going to cover in our session today, and I want to have an interactive session with you. And I want to make sure I go over some logistics with you before we move into our content, because I don't make assumptions when I do webinars in this format. Obviously, we all know we have been thrust into a new environment for delivery of curricula such as what we're covering today. I'm typically out on the road seeing people face to face, and clearly we can't do that post the launch of what we are dealing with COVID-19. So in this format, I don't assume that all of you have experienced an online learning format. So I want to make sure I go over some quick logistics with you. We are leveraging the platform Zoom, and from a utilization perspective, you should see a couple of controls, and I want to test that out and make sure we're all in sync. You should have an option of raising your hand. Let's make sure we can test that and everybody can lift that hand up so I know you're with me. Excellent, excellent. I want you to leverage that. If you have a question, you need me to go over something else, you want to, chime in and give some thoughts, please leverage that. You should also have an option of Q&A where you can send a question directly to me. I will monitor that and try and answer and respond to those questions as I can. We also have the option of the chat. And I've already sent a message into the chat, and I'm going to rely on someone, whoever decides that wants to do this. I want you to make sure you copy that link that I put in there. The first link I put in there is a link to the workbook for today. As participants continue to join us, some of them may not see that because that was posted prior to them coming in. Again, this is a little thing a lot of people don't know when it comes to Zoom. If you people come in post me putting that up, they may not get that. So if someone can be my person that says, hey, I'll drop that in so that people can grab that. So if someone says, I don't have the workbook, I can't find it, I don't know how to access it, I didn't see the link, please make sure someone drop that in, in the chat area for me. I really would appreciate that. Someone just said they don't see it. Who do I have? Donnelly, thank you so much. Donnelly is taking that on, and she has just dropped that into the chat area again. So keep an eye out for it. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, Ariel. Thank you all for taking that on for me. I appreciate it because we're managing logistics and content, and I have to rely on some of you as we do that. The last option, obviously, is the chat. So I really want to make sure we're leveraging that chat. I would love to know where you all are logging in from. So if you can just drop your name in that chat area and where you logged in from, that would be great so that people can see it. And make sure you select the option that says all panelists and participants, because if you don't select that, the only person who's going to see what you type is me. So make sure you select all panelists and attendees so that everyone can see the information, especially if you're helping me out with the workbook. Make sure you leverage that as well. Hello from Canada, Tequila from Memphis, welcome, good to see you. Who else do I see? North Carolina is in the house. Hello, Jacqueline, good to see you. Hi, Kari Lynn, again, Canada, appreciate that. Cindy, you're in Pittsburgh. Hey, Rosemary from Texas, appreciate you joining me today. Metamora from Michigan, welcome. Hey, Gail, North Carolina. Hey, Cheryl Fair from Memphis, Tennessee, good to see you. Andrea, hey, you're right here in Boston with me. Thank you so much for joining me. Jennifer, appreciate you from Raleigh, North Carolina. And Coral Springs, Florida. Ariel, good to see you. Thank you so much. And Donnelly Edwards, good to see you from the Virgin Islands. I want to come visit so bad, but we can't do that right now, so I'm a little frustrated, but good to see you. Thank you for joining me. Hi, Jeanette from Rhode Island. Good to see you as well. So thank you. So if you can continue to help me out and make sure that folks get that workbook, I would really, really appreciate it. Again, if you have questions, you need to stop me. Just please make sure you raise that hand. Happy to stop. I will then give you opportunity to unmute because right now you're kind of all muted. I muted you all, but I will unmute you as we go throughout our session today. Okay. So before I move into our content, any questions or any concerns when it comes to our logistics? Are we all set with our logistics? And only raise your hand if you have a question. All right. So I want to get going with a little information before I move into the specifics of the art of affirmations. I really want to talk just a little bit about how this workshop docks into the bigger picture of what I do and a little bit about who I am. And I'm very selective about what I share when it comes to who I am. I'm very, very selective about that because, I've learned some things over the years in the work that I do, and I'll explain that to you in just a few minutes. But I will be very limited in what I'm going to share as it relates to me and who I am and my background, my education, and all of those things. But before I start, I do want to acknowledge Peace Unlimited. Peace is the business that I lead. Peace, the title PESSCE, is a derivative from the first letters of 6 life streams, as I call them: physical, emotional, spiritual, social, career, and economic wholeness, or financial wholeness. We oftentimes live our lives in disconnect, and we forget that we have to focus on all of those areas to ensure that we have true peace. And true peace can be unlimited if we take the time to look at those aspects of our lives and not separate them. It's not about perfection, but it's about understanding that which challenges us, that which impacts us in all of those areas. So Peace Unlimited offers services in 2 categories: in leadership consulting and coaching and training, which all falls under the umbrella of transformational HR for me, which includes a lot of diversity and inclusion work, and also lifestyle coaching and training, which is what this particular workshop docks into. And that lifestyle training, a lot of what I do targets and focuses on women, and particularly women of color. So if you're on with me today, thank you so much. And if there's follow-up needed in any of those areas that you see on the screen, don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can find me on all social media platforms, or my website, which is www. Well, we don't have to say that anymore, right? Peace.com, PESSCE.com. And I like to have fun, by the way. There's a definite link between fun and effectiveness. So if I say something, act like it was funny. Just go ahead and laugh on with me, right? I can't see you, but I know you're kind of chuckling with me, okay? So in this workshop today, we have a lot of good information that we're going to cover. And as I said, this particular session docks into this whole concept of living in peace and walking in this space of comfort with who we are and how we live our lives, and being able to address those things that may negatively impact us in different ways. So when I think about this, again, I want to thank you and welcome you, of course, but I'm excited about discussing this and discussing the art, and dare I say, the power of affirmations with you today. So as I said, I don't share a lot of my background, but I tell people 3 simple things about myself when I start many of my workshops. I'm happy, I'm healthy, and I'm blessed. And if you know those 3 things about me, you know an awful lot about who I am. I'm not defined by where I live, what I do, what I drive, or any of those things. I'm defined by that which is internal to me, that has an impact positively on those who are around me. And it's important that we remember that in how we live our lives. And I made a commitment to myself earlier this year. I mentioned to you I do a lot of work in transformational HR. And one area that's of great need right now, and continued request, is in the diversity and inclusion space. Post the death of George Floyd, there has been a surge in the need for diversity and inclusion planning and training. I have a full model that supports that. But I realized something that I found myself doing on a regular basis. And I said, I'm not doing that anymore. I usually put up a slide that shows all of my educational background, all of my information from a career progression perspective. And I said, why am I doing that? I'm not doing that anymore, because it becomes a reflection of that which is a problem within our country in this diversity and inclusion space. I, as the person that I am, the skin that I'm in, the person that you see before you, I have to demonstrate something that's 10 times more of a requirement than people who don't look like me. And that is my effort, my tiny little effort to address that which shows up as discriminatory behavior in the things that we do. if you want to know about me, use what a friend of mine and I always call the Google. Use the Google and you can find out more information about me. So that was a decision, again, that I've made because I've noticed over the years that has been something that I've always done because I felt I needed to prove something. It needed to prove, it needed to be something that everyone knew about me. And as a Black female in America, I had to demonstrate a level of credibility and know my stuff. But I'm at a point now where I know my stuff. And it's not a requirement for others to have to do those things. So why should I? So my positive affirmation, I know my stuff, right? I know who I'm stuffing. Those of you who are with me today. And I also know when you're stuffed. So I know how much to give you. I know how to do all of that. So we're going to get stuffing today with some affirmations. So what's my point here? You know, I want to make sure that you have clarity that I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm doing. It's going to be some good information. And I want to make sure that we are all fully engaged as we go through our content today from the lens of that which is value add to each one of you. Affirmations. What's the point? You know, they don't change anything, right? Some people say. What are they, Angela? What are these things? Affirmations? What do I need affirmations for? You know, some might even do this. Sounds stupid to me. I don't know why people do all those affirmation things. It just makes no sense to me. Why do we even need to do them? Well, if you relate to either of these perspectives or any other thought close to that, you are in the right workshop because I want you to start thinking a little differently. Affirmations are all about being aware of our emotions. And before we jump into it, I want to take a moment to check in with want you to have you check in with yourself and determine how you're feeling at this moment. If you like to share, you know, raise your hand. How are you feeling when you thought about this topic of affirmations and you saw the emails that came out or you saw the social media posts? Why would you want to be in this particular webinar? I'm just curious. Anybody want to raise their hand? I want to give you opportunity to share. Anybody, real quickly, when you think about this whole thing of affirmations and some of the comments I just made about how people may view it negatively and all of those types of things. Well, let me see a hand. Okay, let me get the right mouse going over here. Ariel, I want to start with you. You should be able to share with us now if you have a microphone.
Yes, good morning, everyone. So happy to be here. I jumped in because I believe in affirmations. I believe in the power of affirmations and the importance of even checking in with yourself. So I was glad you said that. I work with a lot of people and I use a lot of affirmations in my psychotherapy practice. And also there's an energy that we're able to tap into when it's a group of us. We are able to tap into that synergy when we're working on a particular subject or going in the same direction. So that was one of the reasons why I jumped in.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I see you. How about Jeanette? I don't know if you're Lopez or Lopes, either one, you tell me. And I want to give you a minute to talk.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm feeling hopeful because I was the same way you are. I feel like a lot of times I had to tell all of my accomplishments before I was going to talk about a subject or a topic. And even before I would be maybe defending my children in a 99% Caucasian school for things that were happening that, you know, they're honors, they're athletes there. And so I'm hopeful that I can look to change my view today.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that, Jeanette. Keela.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I, just like the first person said, I totally believe in affirmations. I've read plenty of books and I've seen them work well for other people, but I'm not so sure I always believe them for myself. So that's why I hopped on today.
You know what? Thank you so much for that, Keela, because that happens more often than not. I really appreciate that thought because we can tell people what they need to do, but we forget we have to apply these things to ourselves. And I'm going to talk about that at some point as we go through this workshop. The importance of us remembering, how can you be of value to other people if you're not applying that same thing to yourself? Let me hear from you, Dr. Jacqueline, and you will be my last one for this particular activity. Let me give you a click to allow you. There you go. You have to now unmute yourself. You should be able to chat with me though. Dr. Jacqueline Howard, there you go.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I believe there is an importance to having the positive affirmations because just like coming out of 2020, we've had a lot of negative things happen. And so with the positive affirmation, it ensures that we're in a positive stance in our lives or in our view. And so it's just a reminder of being positive and how it affects what we do.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank all of you for sharing. Those things are very important to keep in mind that we are in a challenging year. We're coming today, last day of the year. I want to make sure we got this session in. So as we go into the new year, we turn that clock, right? Every day is a new year to some people, but we officially turn that clock from a year perspective as of midnight tonight. So it's important that we are prepared and going into this year with that mindset. I'm going to pause for a second to cover some logistics. Someone asked about the workbook link. You will, as long as you have that link, you can access the workbook. It's linked just to that workbook, okay? So we want to make sure that we keep all of these things in mind as we go throughout this workshop today. When we think about affirmations, what are they, right? An affirmation is a positive statement used to challenge negative or unwanted thoughts that we may have. So affirmation as a word in unto itself refers to an act of saying or showing that something is actually true. For example, some of you may be nodding right now, nodding that head in affirmation. That head nod is a physical gesture of affirmation. When it comes to self-affirmation, which is what we're discussing today, it takes that a step further, right? The official definition from the Merriam-Webster dictionary reads, the act of affirmation, or rather the act of affirming one's own worthiness and value as an individual for beneficial effect. And that would be such as, building your confidence or raising your self-esteem. Now, based on these definitions and the things we're talking about, do you feel that self-affirmation would benefit you? And I heard from some of you already, that it would. Some of you may be on here saying, I still don't know, I'm unsure. Would it benefit you? I want you to first give some consideration to the concept of self-esteem, because that's really at the core of a lot of those things as it relates to affirmation, self-affirmation. Self-esteem is confidence in your own worth and abilities, and that self-respect piece. So how would you currently rate your own self-esteem? I want to give you opportunity to rate your self-esteem. We want to kind of see what we look like as a group. How about that? So let's take a quick poll. So you all should see a poll on the screen, 1 being low, 5 being high. Rate your self-esteem. I'll give you about a minute to rate your self-esteem. And then we're going to take a look at our overall rating as a group. If you are continuing or just joining us, please make sure you're checking the chat for the workbook. It has been updated several times in the chat. So if you still aren't seeing it, just put a note in that chat and someone will drop that in there for you. Give you a few more seconds on the poll. It looks like I've got 16 out of 20 of you, 17. Come on, we want to hit 20. We want to hit 20. Come on, if you can get in there and respond to that survey, that would be great. 17 out of 20 isn't bad. I'll give you about 10 more seconds. 10 more seconds. All right, we're almost there. All right, I'm going to close out our poll. Did pretty good. We got 85% of you in here, so I'm going to share our results. So what is so interesting to me is many of you rated yourself right there in the middle. Would love to hear from anybody who would like to share as it relates to how you rated yourself. Good to see none of you rated yourselves low. That's a good thing. That's a positive thing. Anyone that has that 2 or above is a good thing. 2 is a tough one, but at least you're not completely saying you have low self-esteem. Anybody want to share thoughts on your rating and why you rated yourself the way that you did? Just raise that hand for me if you want to. And if you don't want to, that's okay too. We'll keep it moving. But it's so important that we have clarity around self-esteem and the importance of how it fits. Affirmations give us opportunity to choose words that help create or eliminate something in our lives, such as creating success or confidence or healthy relationships, because those things always show up, right? And relationships can sometimes get a little unhealthy, and also helping to eliminate this issue of low self-esteem. So I'm happy to see we don't have much. It also addresses destructive behaviors, and even one that's very difficult for many people, and that's pain. And some of you may be in situations where you are in pain because of life-altering experiences. That pain, feels unending. Affirmations can even help with that. And that pain can come from so many different things: the death of a loved one, a different, loss of your job, financial challenges, whatever those things may be. It can be tough. Affirmations can also be helpful in that sense as well. Okay. So when we think about this whole concept of affirmations, I want to continue down this path of definitions. We've talked about affirmations and what they are. We've talked about self-esteem. There's also this concept that we hear people talking about quite often, and that would be having positive mantras, which is not a bad thing, right? Some of you might have heard of mantras, which is similar to affirmations, but also a little bit different. And I like to take just a few moments to just talk about these two things. Technically, mantras are sacred words or sounds or verses that carry more spiritual meaning than affirmations. And in contrast, affirmations are described in by psychology by the psychology dictionary as brief phrases that we repeat frequently, which is designed to encourage positive, happy feelings and thoughts and attitudes. So when we think about these affirmations, we got to find that which works for us, right? So I want to share a quick little sampling of what affirmations may sound like. So give me just a moment, and I'm going to share those with you. Give me just one moment.
Hello and welcome. Here are some affirmations to help start your day in a positive way. I have slept well and am full of energy. I am excited and ready to start the day ahead. I am feeling positive and am grateful for all the amazing things in my life that I am blessed with. I am motivated and full of energy. I cannot wait to work towards all of my goals in the day ahead. I always make the best decisions. I choose only positive habits. I am ready to take action and accomplish all of my goals. I am full of positivity, energy, and motivation. I am ready to make confident, creative, and caring choices. I am happy and blessed. I am going to have a positive, happy, and productive day. I have slept well and am full of energy. I am excited and ready to start the day ahead. I am feeling positive and am grateful for all the amazing things in my life that I am blessed with. I am motivated and full of energy. I cannot wait to work towards all of my goals in the day ahead. I always make the best decisions. I choose only positive habits. I am ready to take action and accomplish all of my goals. I am full of positivity, energy, and motivation. I am ready to make confident, creative, and caring choices. I am happy and blessed. I am going to have a positive, happy, and productive day.
Do you see how simple that is? Right? It is not something that is heavy lifting, you know, and you have to find that space and that time for yourself, and as well as that which works for you. And we're going to talk more about that a little bit later, but you got to find that which is a good fit for you when it comes to the affirmations that are needed in your individual lives. Now, the problem, this is what the problem is though, right? Here's our challenge. We are not so kind to ourselves. I've got to unmute my video for that. We often are so unkind to ourselves. That's a problem. That's a problem. In general, we're pretty harsh on ourselves. And many of us are more critical of ourselves than anyone else, even people we actively say we dislike, right? That's a problem. And why is that? Because we've created negative core beliefs throughout our lives. And those core beliefs are based on personal experiences and even lessons that we take away from those experiences. And these beliefs can also come from observing others. For example, if you had a parent who was highly self-critical, you're more likely to be that way as well. I talk about this issue of transference and this issue of what we have as that which we call common sense or normal. Those things come to play prior to the age of 18, right? We develop these things prior to the age of 18. Einstein even says when it comes to what we consider common sense, he says that common sense are technically prejudices that form before the age of 18. That's part of a whole different workshop on diversity and inclusion issues, because so many people have these thoughts that they've already built up and it becomes common sense. But common sense is different for different people because common sense is based on our personal experiences and lives. So even in this space of being positive and affirming ourselves based on our life experiences and exposures, sometimes we can't find that space. Keela made a point earlier that she can say it to other people, but where are those things in your own personal life and space that cause you to be more harsh on yourself and limit those positive affirmations to other people and devalue yourself in a way that you don't even apply self-affirmations in your own life. So these patterns of negative thinking develop again early, and they become patterns that our brains turn to when it needs an answer. Like if something bad happened at work, you're trying to figure out what went wrong, and your brain will begin running through old patterns and beliefs that say you're not smart enough, you're not good enough. And sometimes all you have to do is just forget about what you feel or have experienced and remember what you deserve and desire, right? In many of my workshops, particularly my diversity and inclusion offerings, I also talk about the importance of the platinum rule. The platinum rule is an important thing that we must all remember. And most of you, I'm sure, are familiar with the golden rule. The golden rule is you treat others the way you want to be treated. Treat others the way you would want to be treated. The platinum rule says treat others the way they want to be treated. You're putting them ahead of yourself. And that's important. But I have another one, right? And you can call it whatever you want. I'm calling it the titanium rule, you know, but I looked up titanium rule and somebody else is using it for some other concept, but that's okay. The Dr. Angela Crutchfield version of titanium rule is this. We got to think about ourselves, you know, and this is really important. This is so very important. And for the purposes of this workshop, the purpose of the context of what we're talking about, I want this titanium rule to be you treat yourself the way you want to be treated. You got to think about yourself and how you treat yourself. Sometimes we forget about that. Treat yourself the way you deserve to be treated. So call it the titanium rule, the diamond rule, the pearl rule, whatever rule you want to call it. Just call it something and evoke that every day in your life. Just do it. So the good news is that you can change those negative patterns. It just takes some practice, and it may even take a little help. You may have to find others who can remind you of that which is your goodness. So let me give you an example of that. And some of you will love this, some of you will be critical, but that's okay. You'll get the whole point. Some of you might need a little support. So let's take a look at another example that can be of help for you. See, so sometimes we just need a little help, right? And that obviously is a clip from the movie, The Help. And of course that was at a time that was, but a portrayal of a time that was really challenging for many people who look like me in this country. But what's so powerful about that scene is how that made in that scene, in that movie, is being supporting and validating and helping in a way that goes far beyond whatever her role was to be in the work that she was doing. And she demonstrated that which some of us may need in our lives. We might need a little help in our lives so that we can get to this place of affirming ourselves in that way. That I'll say it, I won't use the variation, the version that we just saw, but you are smart, you are kind, you are important. And it's important that we keep that in mind. So grammar aside, let that clip be a motivation and an encouragement to you that you have the ability to shift and change things. Questions, comments, thoughts before we move to our next section. If you want to share, just raise those hands and I will give you the opportunity to unmute. Questions, comments, thoughts. So learn to be kinder to yourself. Now, I see a hand. Let me grab that hand before I move on. There you go. Donna Lee. Is it Donna Lee? Am I saying that correct?
Hi, good morning. Yes, it's Donna Lee. This is so good. And I really so agree with your last point. Our belief drives our behavior, and what we tell ourselves internally just drives how we show up in life. And I think the power of affirmations is really putting into your subconscious the positive things that you want to rule your life, your awareness, and your daily activities. So I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you so much for doing this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And that is really important to make note of. Now, the challenge for some people there are many who feel that they can't do it. They can't find that place. Leveraging help is one way to do it, but we also have to leverage that which is really God-given. I mean, there's some things that we already have that's more powerful than any external thing. So in addition to leveraging help, similarly to what you're doing today by being in this webinar, you're eliciting some support and some help. We also have a responsibility to do the work and leverage that which we have available to us. And we have this capability to do the work. I remember growing up. In Memphis, Tennessee. I'm in Massachusetts. I didn't share that in the beginning, but I currently reside in Massachusetts, but Tennessee is home for me. And I grew up in the South, grew up in Memphis, Tennessee. And I remember something, and I'm the youngest. I'm the youngest of my father's 5 daughters. And my father passed away some years ago, but I'm the youngest of 5 daughters that my dad had. And I remember when it was time for me to learn how to drive. Now, of course, you have to know that when you're the youngest, you hear all the stories from the older siblings. So it was quite hilarious for me the first time sitting behind the wheel of the car with my dad, and he began what is the infamous speech that my sisters had already told me about. It was comedy to me because I'm sitting there and my dad is in the passenger seat and I'm looking straight ahead and he starts the speech and I'm literally mouthing it with him. He's not paying attention to the fact that I'm literally on the brink of laughter because I'm mouthing this thing with him. And he said, he always called us youngin', this is a machine. So I'm mouthing, I'm moving my mouth. This is a machine as he's sitting in the passenger seat saying all this, and I was sitting there looking straight ahead and again, trying my best not to laugh as I'm mouthing the words that are coming out of his mouth. And he talked about how powerful this machine was. But I recall something so important as a part of his speech. He talked about how powerful this machine was, but the other machine that was even more powerful was this machine, this brain that we have to control this vehicle. Our brains are built to create information that is based on our personal interpretations of patterns and assumptions. So when we don't have all the information about something, we fill in the blanks based on the information we already have. And that could be negative thoughts, that could be negative experiences. So we automatically start flooding our minds with that. Now in psychology, heuristics are methods for making decisions or judgments in practical ways, right? So many heuristics, and some of you are in psychology already, someone mentioned that earlier, so I know some of you are with me on this. So many heuristics describe common tendencies that we use to think and resolve problems. And we often rely on these heuristics when we have difficulty getting information that would more accurately solve whatever that problem is. And two examples of heuristics that are often leveraged are availability heuristics and familiarity heuristics. Now, availability heuristics, and you'll find this in your workbook as well, this is when a person uses easily available information to act or move forward. For example, people are very influenced by the most recent stimuli that they experience. We see this a lot when it comes to diversity and the challenges that we face in the workplace with discriminatory practice, because what happens, people judge you by what they see. So that immediate stimuli becomes, you see a face that looks like mine, and then I'm judged based on that versus you having more information. Then the other aspect of heuristics that come to mind here is familiarity heuristics. And this occurs when we make our decisions and our judgments based on what's more familiar to us. This also happens in the same way with diversity, where people gravitate towards those who look like them. So hiring practices become skewed, and people who might look like me are not given a given opportunity if I'm interviewed by someone who doesn't look like me, because they're gonna go with what's familiar to them and not understand that I'm still probably the most talented person sitting in front of them, right? Some of you have experienced that. Can I see those hands? Because I know you have, right? So these heuristics can be particularly problematic, though, when you're trying to innovate, to think outside of the box or accept something that's different, right? So when you're thinking about positive affirmations for yourself, self-affirmations, and it's difficult for you, it's because you readily go to that which you associate with as being negative, and that negativity that has been put upon you based on the experiences that you may have had. So usually when we are filling in the blanks based on this personal interpretation of patterns and assumptions, this comes from what others may have told us about ourselves or how we might interpret certain things. And if you had somebody in your life who bullied you or abused you or told you that you weren't enough, those negative thoughts, they tend to stick. Even if you say that they don't, sometimes they actually do, and they manifest as negative thoughts. And that we hang on to that, and it goes into our minds when we find ourselves in certain situations. Oh, I'm so stupid. Oh, how did I do that? Oh, why did I do that? What was I thinking? And then suddenly we're in this negative space. So that's the issue with assumptions, and as well as thought processes that don't go deeper than the surface knowledge that we might be recalling. And that's not always an accurate, depiction based on the moment or the situation that we may be navigating. But you can shift this by going a little bit deeper and not going with just that surface information, so that you can find a way of coming out of that which is considered negative. And when those things are are negative and those things are saved, they show up as negative thoughts about ourselves, which means we can't provide that self-affirmation that we want to have in relation to our personal lives and the things that we may be dealing with. So there are effects of negative thoughts that come up. So negative thoughts and attitudes and feelings, they can create chronic stress in our bodies, and which can also have serious consequences, imbalances in our bodies in different ways, hormonal imbalances, chemical imbalances in our brains. All of these things show up. So that is where that physical breakdown and response starts to happen. It all starts with these negative thoughts, and these negative thoughts cause physical breakdown for us. And until we figure out how to close the door to that negativity, we can't close the door to that which is impacting us physically in a negative way as well. Now, I'm not talking about those things that you have no control over. There are some things that happen to us physically that you might be sick, you may have been diagnosed with something. That's not what I mean. But I'm talking about those stress patterns and how they show up in our lives. Can't sleep, you're up half the night because you're worried and stressed about something. You got a negative thought about something. We have the power to overcome it. The power that we have is that we get to choose. We get to choose what we think about, which in turn affects our behaviors. Now, given the complexity in the modern world and the uniqueness of our experiences, it's nearly impossible to be prepared for all situations, right? The death of a loved one, a pandemic, right? Nobody was ready for this. The death of a Black man on the side of the road with a white man's knee in his neck. Oh, we really weren't ready for that one. Political insanity that we're dealing with right now, financial challenges some of you have, sickness that may hit your body, and the list goes on and on. Regardless of the situation, the brain has a tremendous capacity for handling that complexity, provided you are willing to call upon it, right? And some of us have a spiritual foundation, right? I do, and many of you, I'm pretty confident many of you do. And we can call upon our own higher power at any point. But the higher power also equipped you physically to do certain things as well. This brain is a functionality that was given to us that we must leverage when we find ourselves in different situations so that we can create that positive energy versus the negative thoughts. So we have to do the work and awake this. There's an aspect of our brain that's considered more lazy and dormant, and that's the executive function. And you want to be reassured here and empowered in knowing with effort and the use of our executive function, we are all capable of combating these automated negative thinkings that take place. Now, before we move into why affirmations work, and I'm going to get there, I want to really drive home this point of the power of the mind. This whole section is about the power of the mind. We actually have a superpower. Did you know that? You didn't know that. Let me tell you about this superpower. The awe-inspiring superpower of imagination. This is something that we have. This is a capability that we have, and we can deploy it at will. At will, and it's something that we can leverage at any point as a part of this whole concept of affirmations, right? Understanding what we must leverage to make affirmations come to life in our thought processes is an important thing to do. The power of this executive function and the capability that we have to imagine is what helps us get there. I recall being in a very challenging situation in a work situation once, and the power of the imagination kept me from going to a very ugly negative place that would have probably positioned me poorly with my colleagues. It allowed me to escape for a few moments, to calm down that moment. It's this prefrontal cortex that we have. It plays a significant role in the executive function of the brain. It also happens to be one of the most distinguishing features between the human brain and animal brains. Very, very important to keep that in mind, right? You hear people want to make negative thoughts and associations of human beings to animals, but animals can't imagine. And if they can, somebody needs to tell me about it. But that's a distinctive feature that we have. This prefrontal cortex gives us that. And in comparison to animals, our prefrontal cortex has increased disproportionately in size as well. And there's research to support all this. Research psychologists and anthropologists suggest that the prefrontal cortex provides humans with this ability to represent information that's not currently in the environment. Okay, get that? Imagination, right? We can imagine these things. We can put these things into play that are not in existence. In other words, the prefrontal cortex, it gives you the ability to imagine or to think about things that aren't immediately present in your senses. Why am I sharing all of this with you? It's important because this is where our opportunity lies to shift our negative thinking. So I want us to do a quick activity together. I want you all, and I hope you all, I meant to say this in the beginning, I hope you're taking notes. I know you have the workbook, but, and if you didn't get to print that out, that you have a notebook or something. So let's do a quick activity. I want you to recall the last time you were in a difficult situation and you felt this, it's a surge of adrenaline that actually happens for us. And that adrenaline is a part of this, this automatic or this reactive mind that we have, and it's based on that immediate stimuli. So the adrenaline brings with it this automated fight or flight sensation, right? So we have the power to override, our more reactive thinking. So I want you to think about a situation that you may have been in. And it's something that we have to actively choose to do, right? So thinking about the last time you were in a difficult situation, you felt that surge of adrenaline. That adrenaline is part of that process, right? So what was that like for you? So I want you to think about that. And then how did you act in that fight or flight situation? And did your executive control step in to overcome the immediate surge of adrenaline and allow you to think rationally? And if so, how did you do that? How did you do that? So think about that. And anyone who wants to share, just lift that hand up for me, and I'll give you opportunity to share. Want to hear your thoughts on this one. Any thoughts on this one? Go for it, Jeanette. I believe you are already able to chat with me.
Hi. The only thing I can think of really quick is that I'm a child protection worker, and we were considering removing a couple of children, and there was a lot of negative words made towards me in regards to my style of work when I was really just there to protect the children. And that being said, the parent who had a huge history with substance use started attacking my character. And so I felt myself kind of trying to use that executive functioning, saying, you're a good social worker. You wouldn't be here. They wouldn't have hired you. But what I really needed was words of affirmation that came from other people, like my supervisor, to calm me down.
And you leverage the help, right?
Correct.
But internally, you gotta be able to leverage the executive function in a way that you can find the affirmation from a self lens, because your executive function, you were trying to, you said you were trying to, you were just going with that immediate stimuli of people creating discomfort for you.
Correct.
And that then automatically gives you that fight or flight moment. And in many cases, we fight. And fight does not mean negative. Fight means my thoughts also are going to take a different posture or position. And that is what's going to be really important to keep in mind, how we should be leveraging this power that we have, more specifically, even our imagination. In that moment, Jeanette, imagining yourself being that strong, confident leader and protector that you are in that moment. And that's what my intent is. We always forget about that. We've got to make sure that we also follow the intent versus impact model as well. I talk about that a lot in my diversity class, understanding your intent and your behavioral choices so that you can have the right impact. And that doesn't mean that you did something wrong or you didn't show up in the right way, but people have no idea about your intent. People judge us by impact, right? And that means our behavioral choices have an impact on other people. So that even could be you cowering away in the moment because someone gave you a level of discomfort, right? So we've got to think about how we can more effectively leverage that executive function to get us to a better place. Thank you so much for sharing, Jeanette. Whose hand do I see? Gail, let me unmute you. There you go. Go for it, Gail.
Okay. Hi.
Hi.
I just had a situation this morning that I don't know if this applies or not, but a lot of what you were saying, I felt, and I am old-fashioned in the point of we have some traditions for the 31st of December, making sure the house is cleaned up and tidy and things like that, so that when you go into the new year, you're tidy, you're tidy like that.
Yeah.
And right now, my daughter's staying with me, and she has a mess throughout the house.
I can relate more than you know, Gail.
And I'm thinking, okay. And she says, right. So I text her, I says, can you be home today and just tidy up your stuff before you go out tonight? She says, well, I'm working till 6:30, so I'm not going to be able to do it. Just do this, this, and this. And I was fuming. And I let that take over.
Yep.
I went ahead and I put a bunch of her stuff in a box.
Yeah.
Just and put it into her room. And then I'm thinking, well, I'm still cleaning up her mess.
Right. And I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Right before I was starting your webinar, I'm thinking, I thought to myself, okay, is traditions really that important over this that I'm going through right now?
Yes. Yeah.
So that's where, of course, I've calmed down now.
Yeah, right. Wait, where are you, Gail?
North Carolina.
Okay, you're in North Carolina. Okay, I thought you were somewhere else that was already ahead of us on time. So we're in the same time.
I'm from Scotland, but I'm
okay, you are from Scotland. Okay, awesome. But Gail, that's so important, the things that you're raising, because in light of what we talked about, the freedom of the mind is so important. And sometimes our minds are not free because we're stuck and caught up in whatever that is. And then the scenario you just described is more being caught up in tradition. And that doesn't mean we don't want to clean house, right? I deal with that every day. I'm not gonna put them on blast, but I deal with that every day in my house right now as well. So I get it. But when we think about the freedom of the mind that we talked about, it's such a powerful thing, right? And it's important when we think about affirmations that, in many ways, humans are rightfully obsessed with and also emotionally moved by the concept of freedom. Without our executive function and the control of our brains, we would have no freedom, right? Some people flip this and see it a different way, but we have freedom. That freedom is because we have this opportunity to shift and to think differently and to change. And we will be bound by our instincts and impulses and continuously reacting. That means I would continuously be running in behind the person who lives in my house, who's my son that's 22 years old. I'm sorry, I said I wasn't gonna do that to him. Okay. I would be constantly running behind them, picking up things, cleaning up. No, I don't want to be in that, because I'm getting caught up in that immediate environment. So because I want certain things, that's fine. And I can set that expectation. But if we were bound by our instincts to automatically run and do these things, we would be crazy. We would absolutely be crazy. So consider this. We are completely free to think whatever we want. And that's a powerful thing. We're free to also maintain thoughts and ideas that we believe for years, decades, and even a lifetime. We're also free to change or amend any one of those thoughts if we prefer to do so. But the choice about how we think is always a personal one, decided by each one of us individually. So one of the greatest freedoms that we have, again, is to change our minds. And oftentimes we don't talk about occurrences, because sometimes when we have to make a change, it starts with us being wrong. And nobody ever wants to be viewed as being wrong. But a change of the mind can be one of the most profound experiences. Okay, thank you so much, Cindy. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Let me do this, by the way. I'm going to drop something in the chat, and I hope all of you can stay with me. This is scheduled for a 2-hour workshop, by the way. But what I want to do is drop a link to a survey. If you don't mind, as you have to leave, if you could just click on that link and grab that link for me to complete the evaluation for this session, I would really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And oh, by the way, I'm not going to take a break, so feel free to take your own break as we go throughout. But I'm gonna hit it hard for the next 1 hour and 4 minutes and get a lot of good information out there for you. So with that said, take a break if you feel like you need to, because I'm going to keep moving unless suddenly I need to take a break. All right. All right. So when we think about this power, again, this freedom that we have, and knowing that we can change our minds, this is a profound experience, and understanding that helps you understand the freedom that you live in and day out. There's a provocative statement some psychologists have put out there: without executive functions and the control of our brains, we would have no freedom. Right? We will be bound to do certain things a certain way without the ability to step back and say, wait a minute, I think I need to make a different choice. And that's okay in the moment for you to have a pinch point of a decision-making point of, I think I need to do something different. So when you think about that statement, I want you to think about it and make notes for yourself. I don't want to spend time on it, but make notes for yourself of what you think this actually means. This statement of without executive functions and controls in our brain, we would have no freedom. Think about that. Write down your thoughts about what that means and your reactions to that statement, and how you can leverage the understanding of that to operate differently in your true place of freedom, which is the capability that you have at the core of your being to change and make a different choice. I want you to think about that. All right. So with all of that in mind, and with all of that said, and we think about this place of freedom, we also want to keep in mind that, the times that change, or times that we change our minds, oftentimes are big scenarios that present, right? And I want you to think about it. And this, again, is for you to make note of. And if you want to share, please raise your hand. I want you to think about something really significant where the most meaningful time when you changed your mind. And why was it so meaningful for you? Because this is important. Don't get lost in here. This is important because if you're in a place where you can't find the space for positive affirmation in your life because you're navigating this negative space, you've got to be able to leverage this power that you have to change, right? So think about something that was a meaningful change for you. Anybody want to share quickly? Not too long, but a quick one. Go for it, Jeanette. You're unmute. You can unmute.
This one's a little embarrassing, but I will say it.
Okay.
I was buying a car for my 17-year-old daughter for her birthday. And I believe that not the salesman, but the manager was being very inappropriate and had prejudged me and my husband when we came in. And didn't offer us a pretty decent deal. He was very mean, but the salesman was great. And I walked out and I was very angry. I did not buy the car. I was rude to the salesman. And I went home, and on the drive home, I was really thinking about my behavior. And I had to use that executive functioning to change, because my thought as I was self-righteous. Yeah. I was right. They weren't offering me a deal because of my race. They always think that minorities can't afford things. And I went home and I changed it. And I have to be honest, I had a little help from my husband saying, you were a little mean to the salesman. And then the next day I called him and I apologized. And I said, I was really inappropriate. I should not have walked out like that. It took a lot of effort for me to make that change in my mind, because I felt self-righteous.
Right. That is an excellent example. And it's not necessarily as much focus on being right or wrong. It's about leveraging that capability to change. And owning that moment. And I appreciate you sharing it. So don't view it as being embarrassing. I'm hopeful that it's something that has been helpful to others who hear you share that story, because sometimes we don't we can't find it. And I see it happening so many times, and that becomes then that that place of, I'm not going to change. I'm this way I am. I've always been this way. I'm never going to be any different. Blah, 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 blah. Right? And they're wrong and they treated me wrong because of the way I look. Yeah, okay. But what did you do in that moment? Maybe it was something that you could have also done differently. There's always two sides of every situation. So you might have to make a different choice. So I appreciate that example that you just shared. So we have this freedom. We have this freedom of thought, this freedom of mind, this freedom to change. But I want to touch on one last piece around freedom, though, because we got to be careful with the superpower that we have. Because sometimes the superpower that we have can also be something that gets us in trouble. So I don't want to lose sight on that. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on, but I think it's important that we keep in mind this contrast. So I want to contrast the freedom of the mind, which we just talked about, with the freedom to be. So while the thoughts in our minds are free, when we go outside of our minds, we are decidedly less free. So I want you all to do something with me, right? I want everybody to do this with me. So I can't see you. I'm just going to trust that you're going to do it. I want you to imagine that you can fly. Imagine it. Now, I would typically start singing somebody's song, but I don't want to use this guy's song right now. And you all probably know what I'm talking about. But imagine that you could fly. Flying high above the clouds. Fly, fly, fly. Close your eyes. Imagine this. And picture yourself flying in the clouds. Close your eyes, really commit to it. I'm flying. Yes, I can see it. I can feel it. Now, you can open your eyes. You're free to think you can fly and even to envision yourself flying. But unless you're armed with some very sophisticated technology, you shouldn't actually act on that thought, right? So reality has parameters that's governed by physics, like flying, and some governed by all of us. So the rules that we set up, curtail our freedom to do certain things. And these parameters are established through laws, through social norms, through all of these types of things. It's so very important that we put these two things in perspective, the freedom of the mind and the freedom to be. You can imagine certain things, but how do you leverage that in a way that's value add to you in addressing that which may be negative in your life to find those positive affirmations that you need? So freedom of the mind is powerful, but freedom to be requires adherence to laws and social norms. Let me give you an example to take this a little bit further. So what many of you may be familiar with the movie Catch Me If You Can. Any of you familiar with that? Catch Me If You Can. When you think about this story, this is the story of Frank Abagnale Jr. And the key point in this whole thing is to really understand and think about this power that we have of our brain, because again, it's a powerful thing. The brain provides us with great power, but reality has to also set some restraints. So let's think about this movie, Catch Me If You Can. If you haven't seen it, you may want to watch it. But in Catch Me If You Can, starring Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks, it was based on the true story of Frank Abagnale's life, and and how he basically did not adhere to nor recognize many of the social parameters that we typically do. When he found himself alone as a teenager, he had no money, and he decided to make counterfeit checks and amassed a fortune. Right? He'd always dreamed basically of being a pilot. So without any training, this guy goes out and he becomes a pilot. he finds a pilot uniform and he sneaks on a plane and he flew it. And he wanted to be a doctor and a lawyer. So he obtained costumes and studied the speech patterns and the behaviors of doctors and lawyers, and then became those. Now, without any actual training, he'd go and impersonate these people. He was eventually, of course, arrested by the FBI and he was sent to jail. So we want to make sure we know that. But when we think about the depiction of what happened in this movie, he lived out these imaginations. And he got to this place of trying to live them out, but he wasn't free to be. He could free to imagine these things, but he wasn't free to be. So you have the power to think whatever you want. That's no small thing. And it affects not just how you see and interpret the world, but also how you behave in it and how you see yourself. So the executive function in your brain, it allows you to override any of those automatic automatic thought processes that you have. In the case of Frank could have stayed in this negative place of being a teenager with no money and mom like, whoa, it's me, and lived in that space. He didn't. He allowed that which we have, the power of the imagination, to get him to a different place. Now, was he wrong? Yeah, he was pretty wrong in some of the things that he did. But the reality of it is that freedom to be, there are parameters to control that. But the beauty of it is him having that freedom, right? And I wouldn't want to be on a plane that the guy was flying, but it's just, it's still one of those stories that stands out like, wow, this guy really leveraged that executive function in a way that took it to a completely different level. So these powers are at your disposal whenever you need them. And of course, there are parameters when it comes to free to be, but free to think, free to understand, that's really important to keep in mind. And affirmations are about how we use this power source. We want to have affirmations so that we can leverage this power source that we have already available to us. It's up to you to leverage that. So why affirmations actually work? Why do they actually work? They work because of something called self-affirmation theory. And some of you may be familiar with the self-affirmation theory. This theory begins with the premise that people are motivated to maintain the integrity of self, controlled by this powerful tool that we all have, our mind. So people who leverage this in the right way, you're going to reflect on strengths and values when you're faced with challenges and to overcome these barriers. In other words, affirmation helps to protect your ego, your thought processes, all of those things. And people seek new favorable knowledge about themselves, as well as ways to revise any pre-existing thoughts that you may have. But unfavorable views of yourself can get in the way of that. So seek self-affirmation. And so someone might post a picture on social media. This is a huge one that I hear a lot in my coaching. People post something on social media and that, gets a lot of attention. And you see that, and next thing you know, you're creating negative thoughts about yourself. That's another person's life. What's happening in your life is what your focus needs to be on. And that's why in my peace model, that social piece is so important. We have to leverage social in the right way and find those positive affirmations for ourselves and not get caught up in that which we see as being external to us. So positive affirmations, they work. They work because they give us opportunity to think differently, to be different, to operate differently. And we talked about this brain issue already quite a bit, but the development of self-affirmation theory has led to neuroscientific research about how the brain is affected when we self-affirm in positive ways. We got to keep this in mind. Even, MRI scans even show that when people practice this self-affirmation, certain neural pathways are increased, and self-related information processing happens as a part of this powerful brain that we have. So it works. It works, and it's important that we leverage it because we want to find ourselves in situations where we are operating from a place of peace and a place of happiness. Happy thoughts, happy life, right? That is so important. Think happy thoughts. Anyone know what movie that simple term line comes from? The full line is, in order to learn to fly, you need to think happy thoughts. Anybody know where that comes from? Drop it in the chat if you do. And then I'll tell you in just a minute. But we have to think about it and allow our minds to go to this good place. Somebody said hook. I'm not familiar with that, Jennifer. I'll give it to you. Peter Pan. That was a famous line from Peter Pan. In order to learn to fly, you need to think happy thoughts. Now, unfortunately, in real life, happy thoughts won't let you actually fly, but they will help you feel like you actually could. And maybe thinking about Peter Pan isn't your actual thought. Maybe it's something more real. But we should all think happy thoughts as often as possible. And don't underestimate this perspective that, that's not for me. That's not the perspective you want to have. And people don't have to know what you think and what you're dealing with. You got to work through this. Some of you may say, Angela, you don't know my life. You don't know my situation. You don't know whatever it is, my whatever the situation may be. And you're right, I don't. But I do know what can potentially help change it. And happy thoughts can actually do that. Happy thoughts, happy life. Even in the worst of happy situations, happy thoughts can turn those negative things into positive. So positive affirmations will help us to respond in a less defensive way, a less angry way, all of those things, and resist, that resistance that also shows up. It can help you deal with these things that we view as threats, external threats to our, not threats in physical violence, but those external threats. Looking at someone's pictures on Facebook, that's an external threat. Or things that create challenges or things that create discomfort. Now, this is because by developing a better sense of ourselves, we basically can boost our self-esteem and feel more capable of handling difficulties when they arise. Now, there's a quote that I love, a quote by Maria Mitchell. And Maria Mitchell said, "There is no cosmetic for beauty like happiness." Oh, that is so powerful. There is no cosmetic for beauty like happiness. Take all that stuff off your face. If you don't have happiness, I tell you, you still are not doing anything. Or put all that makeup on, rather. You've got to have happiness. Okay, so keep that in mind. That's an important thing that you want to leverage. And now some people have asked me about this, and I want to touch on it quickly because I am not a psychologist, but I definitely want to touch on this issue of mental health. So let me be clear. Positive affirmations are not designed to be a cure for any mental diagnosis, nor are they to be a substitute for clinical treatment, right? See a clinician if you need to see one, that's okay. But positive affirmations can be a beneficial tool that you leverage. Now, I must, throw this out there. Get some professional help if you need it. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I want to emphasize this for those of you who look like me, especially because in our communities, that is something that's almost taboo. If you need help, get the help. This is something that many have avoided or viewed negatively. Yes, have your spiritual foundation. We go into your prayer closet, your war room, your hallelujah moment, we praise you, oh God. That's beautiful. We all do that. That's core for who I am. But sometimes you need a little help to strengthen that core, right? And it's okay. And we all need a wellness routine. And sometimes mental health wellness routines must be put in place. And that is important to do. And your wellness routine might require a trained clinician being a part of your plan. And that's okay. So if you're struggling with anxiety and or depression, it's likely that you might have a negative view of yourself. Even though some situations challenge you, you still got to also ensure you look at yourself to see how you are a contributor for your own downward moments, even in light of things that happen external that you have no control over. Affirmations can help. They're a great thing to incorporate in your wellness routine, but get the help that you might need. Okay. Questions, thoughts, comments on anything that we've covered up to this point? Now, people have asked about guidelines. How do we get to this place, Angela? How do we get to this place of leveraging affirmations? I want to cover this information with you. And I want you to remind you that affirmations aren't supposed to be complicated, right? It's not complicated, shouldn't be stressful, shouldn't be a heavy lift, shouldn't be chores. And there are no rules. There are no rules for practicing affirmation in terms of how often you practice them, the length of your phrases or what you say, but there are some guidelines that I think can help you. So let's look at it, and you'll find these laid out in your workbook as well. And I typically have my workbook open to give you the page numbers. So forgive me, I didn't give you the page numbers. And as I put this together, started this workshop, I didn't open up that file. Number one, first thing, we go throughout our day being mean to ourselves without even realizing it. We do that, so you really want to think about how can I operate a little differently? So the first thing on your list is to increase awareness of your own, stinking thinking, as they say. Increase your awareness of your thoughts. Increase your awareness of your thoughts. That's going to be important. And we look in the mirror and we think, ugh, yuck. But that thought continues throughout our day. We eat a donut and we think, oh, ugh, shame on me. Oh God, I know I gained 20 pounds just eating that donut. And we don't think twice about those things. But those are those negative things that we put in us. And when we allow ourselves to get away with thinking these thoughts, we set a precedence for our own behavior by increasing your awareness of what and how you are speaking about yourself on a day-to-day basis throughout the day. And you find the ability to correct your thoughts and begin reforming your patterns of understanding, you will start to see change for yourself. I said it earlier, nobody can treat me better than me. Nobody. And no one can treat me worse than me. So you have to raise your awareness to drive the needed positive change in your own personal life. Number 2 on that list of guidelines would be pinpoint the negative. Pinpoint that which is considered negative thoughts for you. Become aware of these negative thoughts to help you fight and actually reverse them. If you don't know them and you don't think about them, how can you fight them and reverse them? And these thoughts can be hard to catch because we become so accustomed to allowing them. We have them and we just keep moving, and then those things continue to build up. So if you like to, if you like, maybe you should start by looking in the mirror and paying attention to where your mind goes, even in that. Are your thoughts negative or positive? And are you focused on specific body parts in that moment? If so, ask yourself where those thoughts come from. I recently sent a photo to a small group of people who have been instrumental over the past year to keep me focused on my efforts to be more healthy. And, I included, the three or four trainers that I've been working with pretty consistently over the last year, a couple of my siblings, my son, my nutritionist, different people. And these people have been helping me thinking about my eating better and my physical fitness. And the photo that I sent them was a side-by-side image of a picture of myself from November of 2019, and then one from December of 2020. Now, over the course of the year, I look in the mirror with total frustration because I don't see the progress, and I get on the scale and I just want to scream. It's like, "Rah!" And my sister would always say over the years, the scale is the devil. No, I would never look at it from an overall progress perspective. And when I looked at that picture side by side, where I'm wearing the same shirt, because remember, go back to the heuristics that we talked about. We just look at what's immediately present. So if I look in the mirror, I go to what that immediate stimuli, what I see in the mirror. But when I looked at that image side by side with the same shirt on, I could actually see my progress. Now I have a long ways to go and I'm not where I wanted to be, but it helped me to change my negative thoughts, even in that moment on that day when I looked at those two pictures. I changed that negative thought, and I know I have a long way to go. And again, here I am being negative right now, but that moment gave me an opportunity to think differently and change that negative thought. Now, we also want to make sure, number 3 in our guidelines, we want to make sure that we know our triggers. Consider any situations that trigger negative feelings for you. For example, putting on a swimsuit might be a trigger for some of you. Speaking in front of a group of people makes you uncomfortable, and that's a trigger for you. Whatever those triggers are, know those triggers and jot those triggers down for yourself. Drop some in the chat for me right now. Any triggers for you, just drop them. Give me some quick, what's your trigger? Drop your triggers in there for me. Let's see your triggers and see if we have any commonality going. And while you're putting your triggers in, I'm going to move on to our next one, which is number 4, which is creating affirmations based on, our own values. We've got to make sure that we are creating affirmations that are based on our own things. What do we value? That's the only way it's going to work for you. In the words, if the words you speak don't have personal meaning to you, then they probably won't work. And that's why it's important to create affirmations for yourself based on your own values and beliefs. And even what you desire or want out of life, or what you want for others around you. That is so important. Now, if you're a spiritual person, they can be grounded in spiritual thought processes. If you're not, in that case, choose those spiritual mantras. But some of you may be really into sports. Find sports analogies that you can leverage. Whatever works for you, make it your own. That's a huge, important guideline to keep in mind. And that will make all the difference in the world for you to sustain that approach. And then lastly, use I am. A good rule of thumb for creating affirmations to begin your sentences with the phrase I am. and some other guidelines. Keep it present tense and be specific and be brief. And also keep in mind that, you know, the subconscious mind cannot differentiate between negative and positive. So you want to be successful, make sure you're not using, you know, negative affirmations like, I don't want to be a failure. That's not the approach you want to take. You want to keep it positive. Okay. One of the key concepts was basically repeat your affirmations. We repeat affirmations so that they sink in a little bit deeper. So you want to demonstrate that in all that you do, making sure that you are absolutely focused on this on a regular basis. And whether you take 5 minutes to repeat your affirmations each morning, or you sprinkle them throughout your day, you know, repetition is an important part of helping your brain to soak in this information that you're trying to give it. You're trying to make a shift here. So when you get this right, when you take the time to work through this process and understand it, you're going to find that you're incorporating this in everything. So what's next for you? The next thing is incorporating these affirmations into your regular daily life, into your regular routine. Make sure you are doing this throughout the day. Create this normal approach for yourself. Be creative. Use affirmations for screensavers. Write them on a Post-it note. Pin them up on your mirror. Whatever you need to do that works best for you. There's no right or wrong here. It's about what works best for you. That is the approach that you want to take. When you get up in the morning, you want to make sure that it's a part of that routine that you put in place. If you're finding yourself, you know, needing that daily boost of positive energy, begin your day with this boost of by having self-affirmations. It's so important that you do that. Build this into your routine while you make your coffee, if you drink coffee, or your tea, or have it on the mirror as you brush your teeth, whatever it is that you need to do so that you can be in a much better place as you move throughout your day. Now, can you think about any, and I didn't ask you in the beginning, I typically would have asked and I didn't. Can you think of an affirmation that you have either used, or that as you've gone through this workshop today, that you say, you know what, this is one that I can start using? I want you to populate our chat area right now, because some of you may have some great ones that can be value add to someone else. So let's build out some affirmations right now in the chat, as well as I want to give opportunity for you to share any verbally. So I'm going to make sure that everyone is unmuted. I think I've already done that, but let me make sure. Let's hear from some of you, especially if I haven't heard from you today. You all are now able to unmute yourselves and share. So let's hear, go for it. Please put them in the chat too. I want to see things. I don't see anything coming in on the chat. Maybe I'm missing something. Drop some things in the chat, unmute. Let's hear some positive self-affirmations that have worked for you, or that you are thinking could work for you. Let's hear from you. Okay, so maybe I need to call on people, or am I the only one in the workshop? There we go. Okay, I don't need to share my accomplishments to feel valued. Thank you for that one. Let me ask you, would you think about rewording that? And if so, how could you reword that? I don't need to share my accomplishments to feel valued. I think you could reword that. Jeanette, go for it. I see you're unmuted.
I am valued no matter my education or my accomplishments. I matter, something like that.
Nope, I want you to say that even differently, because you still have some negativity infused in there. Start with an I am. I am
Accomplished.
That's it. If it's simply that, that's powerful. Just the way you even said it. You said, I am accomplished. You see how that's different than I don't need to share my accomplishments to feel valued?
Yes.
You don't want to infuse that negativity in there. You want to always begin with an affirmative thought process and not infuse it with something negative. Others, Anyone else want to share? I am amazing. I'm a child of the Most High God. Yes. Kari Lynn, you want to verbally unmute and verbally share? In him I live, move, and have my being. Thank you, V. Blair. Thank you for that. Jennifer, I have the peace of God that surpasses all understanding. I love these. Most of these are spiritual. Keela, I am worthy. Yes, love it. Yes, yes, yes. Donna, I am capable and I can do it. Yes, it can be whatever it is. I am enough. Yes, I am enough. And I take that even higher, Jennifer. I'm more than enough. Absolutely. I love it. Kari, you should be able to, let me make sure unless you don't have a microphone, you should be able to unmute yourself and share with us now verbally.
There we go. Okay, I saw the button come up here. Okay, I have one that I read every morning, or try to read every morning. It's quite long. I don't know if I'll read it all to you, but I can share some of it.
Okay, go for it.
So here it starts out. I am smart and I am important. I am a world changer. I am brave and courageous. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I am called by God to do great things. I am strong. I melt in his presence, yet stand strong in the face of adversity. I can't stop running because Jesus didn't stop for me. I am a finisher and I am the right woman for the job. It goes on, but it's really good.
Oh, no, that's good. I want you to keep going. I love it.
What it leads me to.
I love it. Yes, yes, yes. That's awesome. Jen, I'm more than enough. I am walking in my purpose. Yes, that's a great one. I'm always loved. Yes, I am strong and I am peace. A. White, give me more on that. You say I am strong and I am peace. I love the I am peace, but I need to hear more. What do you mean when you say I am peace? A. White, let's hear from you.
Well, when I say I am peace, as I feel like as long as I maintain my peace, no matter what my surroundings are, I will always be at peace with myself and with my surroundings and with my life.
Love it. Absolutely love it. I just want to make sure everyone heard what you meant in that space of I am peace. Yes, love it, love it, love it. Vanessa, that was awesome. Yes, Vanessa, let me hear from you.
I am battling ovarian cancer, and I have for 3.5 years. So because I keep having recurrences, I decided that I needed to change my mindset. So I've been reading a lot of Louise Hay's books, and I go to sleep every night telling myself that my cells are healthy. My healthy cells are taking over my body. My body doesn't ache. Just continual sentences of positive affirmation to heal my body from the inside out, so that until I go to sleep, I do that. That's how I go to sleep, is these positive affirmations towards healing my health.
I love that. I absolutely love that, because that's a challenging space to be in when it's, physical health or the death of a loved one. Those are some of the more challenging scenarios that present. And it's very difficult to find that space of positive energy and affirmation. But I tell you, once you start infusing those things in, it makes a difference. Your body, starts to even react and respond to that, because that mental stimuli is helping, right?
Right. And when I was diagnosed, I said this was no surprise to God. So I'm not going to let it surprise me, because he knew this was the path that I was going to walk down. So I had to walk it with joy in my heart and a smile on my face. And that's what I've done.
Absolutely appreciate that. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for sharing that, Vanessa. Let me hear. I see a couple more I haven't heard from. C. Fair, anything you want to share? How about you, Debbie or Donna? And again, you can either put it in the chat or you can share it with us by unmuting. These are all great, by the way. These are all great. So the whole point here is there's no judgment. You know, there is no judgment here. So in sharing what you're sharing, that is not only important to share for yourself and have these for yourself, sharing with this group is also something I'm sure that is encouraging to other people. And Donna, yes, isn't that powerful? Donna said that what Vanessa just shared was so powerful, and she thanked Vanessa for sharing it, and she wishes you, Vanessa, great health today and moving forward. So that's awesome, awesome, awesome. So we have to make sure we are finding that which works best for us. If you don't have any, reference points, I've included in the handout material that we sent to you a link to some resources that can be helpful. Many of the resources were leveraged as a part of this webinar. So make sure you grab that information so that you can go to those links and see if there are things that can be a value add to you, because you've got to find what works for you. So often we are looking for things that don't fit for us, and that's why oftentimes that's why it doesn't work. It doesn't work because sometimes we're leveraging affirmations that are affirmations for other people. You've got to find that which works best for you. So we covered a lot in a very short window of time, and I'm grateful to all of you for joining me today. And I've had such a great time having this conversation with you related to the art of affirmations. And I do hope that this was value add to each of you. I do have other sessions that will be coming in January, or beginning in January. I do a lot of work in training and development and delivery of workshops in this way, but much of what I do is with private companies. And whenever I offer public sessions, I do make that available either via my website or through social media platforms. So please be on the lookout for things that will come out in the future. And I want to say thank you so much for joining me. Give you an idea of some of the things that are coming up for any of you that might be interested in some of the topics that I'm currently that I will be currently running. You can, again, my website should hopefully be getting some updates soon, but in the meantime, I'll try and post it on social media, as well as use the current state of my website. Several sessions I'm doing: unconscious bias, the power of positive psychology. That is a 2-day workshop with 2 different options, one in the morning and one in the afternoon, as well as running this art of affirmations. Again, I'm doing FMLA compliance. If you're struggling in that space, that could be a great workshop for you. I'm going to do a workshop on virtual onboarding, and then FMLA compliance. These are dates that are already scheduled, so be on the lookout for them. But more to come in February, as well as throughout the year. 2 particular ones that I'm really proud of that I'm looking to offer pretty soon will be a series of workshops that focus on peace, growth, and the power of influence. We will leverage content from John Maxwell in those workshops, the series, which will include the 15 invaluable laws of growth, becoming a person of influence, and your roadmap for success. I am also on the other side of my peace offering of services in the transformational HR space. We are also going to be offering transformational leadership success. So for individuals who are seeking some support in that area, much of what I do targets women, but right now there's a huge need for men in leadership to understand our current state and deal with these issues related to diversity and inclusion. Many of them are struggling, so I'm trying to be there for them, and I leverage what I call the LEAPUS D&I Change Leadership Model. That is a part of this transformational leadership series, this Mastering Leadership series that I'm offering, which will also include some John Maxwell material, leadership goal, developing the leader within, and everyone communicates if you connect. So please feel free to reach out if you're interested in any of those. And I would love, love, love to hear your thoughts about this particular session that you have so graciously taken time out of your day to spend with me. So again, as I mentioned earlier, if you could click on that link that's in the chat and provide me with some feedback on this workshop, I would really appreciate it. So I want to say thank you. And I also want to open it up for any last comments, thoughts, questions, anything that you all want to share, and have a blessed new year as well for you, Donna Lee. Thank you so much. But please, again, take the time to complete that evaluation. I really would appreciate it. Questions, comments, thoughts? Happy New Year to you too. Go for it, Vanessa.
I just wanted to say this was awesome, and
Oh.
I appreciate the invite. You did a great job.
Thank you so much, Donna. I appreciate that. I'm sorry, Vanessa. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yes, Miss Donna.
Yeah, I wanted to say the same thing. This was fantastic. I loved your energy. I loved what you talked about. And I really needed this today. So thank you very, very much for this.
You are so welcome. I'm glad this was helpful for you. Anyone else? Well, again, I say thank you to each and every one of you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you in future webinars with me. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.
You too. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much.